Thank you for coming. This is a program, a part of a program that I began here in Massachusetts just a little over 4 years ago. Put the first group in place in March of 2014. And I should prefix it by saying that this whole concept of putting telescopes in public libraries began almost 10 years ago up in New Hampshire with the New Hampshire Astronomical Society. They put their first 2 telescopes in place in December of 2008. They now have 125 in place the last I checked. I've been doing this since March of 14, so a little over 4 years. I've got 141 in place so far. I'm the coordinator for the program. Jim is the current president of Aldrich Astronomical, but more so he's even a solar system ambassador under the NASA JPL system. This is a picture of what I refer to as our gang of 8. These are all members of Aldrich Astronomical Society, and we got together at Anna Maria College in Paxton, where we meet for the most part, and modified those 8 telescopes to get them ready to go out to the libraries. And we do modify them. They're not what you can get when you order one from Orion. We do a number of things to them to make them a little bit more durable and or user-friendly. And I can explain that to each one of you individually later on if you'd like. These 8 went to Royalston, Hubbardston, Rutland, Paxton, Spencer, Sutton, Shrewsbury, and Beverly, way up on the North Shore. And that was the kickoff. So far, like I say, we've got 141 out there so far. And we also do exhibits in libraries with our group that takes pictures of what's up there. Astrophotography. We're right now going to be, well, we are now down in the Bridgewater Library for June and July. We've also been in Gardner at the Hayward Memorial Library. We've been in Shrewsbury at the Shrewsbury Library. And there's more coming. Telescope for this particular donation is done by the Friends of the East Long Meadow Library. And this plaque you'll see is attached to the base of the telescope. That way the patrons coming in know just how the telescope got to be in the library in the first place. And I have these plaques made up by a graphics company in Worcester. So at any rate, it just lets people know how the telescope came to be. And bringing it all into focus. Who says we don't have a sense of humor? One of the modifications that we do to the telescopes is change the eyepiece. This little guy right here. Originally, when the telescope comes from Orion, it comes with 2 separate individual eyepieces, a 6mm and a 17mm. Well, early on in New Hampshire's program, I'm going to guess probably by mid-2009, they had reports coming back from a director or a designated in the library saying that a patron had brought the telescope back in to check it in and admitted the fact that when they were changing from one eyepiece to the other, they dropped one on the ground. Not good. Never mind the potential damage, but the dirt. If it's not cleaned properly, you run the risk of putting dirt into the focuser assembly, might even get down on the secondary mirror. So New Hampshire's cure for that was to put a variable power zoom eyepiece on. There's no changing necessary. And actually the parameters are a lot better than those 6 and 17mm jobbies. And we attach the eye cover with a cord so it doesn't get lost out in the grass in the backyard or another field wherever you're at. The Easy Finder. This is how you use the telescope. That little item here, in this tube area, there is a red projected LED dot. It is not a laser. So there's no potential damage to your eye at all. This is a dot that gets projected. So at any rate, you turn it on, you'll notice there's a green dot on the switch. The green dot came about as I was finishing up doing the training session for the Harvard Mass Library. I'm done. I already explained what the telescope is, how it works, how to use it, so on and so forth. One of the ladies said, John, even as kids, we're taught the value of 2 colors, red and green. And I knew right where she was going. I said, thank you, Constance, I would use green. Green means go. Besides, I don't wanna have to buy red. So anytime you see a green dot on a switch or any other place, it's okay to touch that. You need to in order to make the telescope work. But if you don't see a green dot on something, please leave it alone. Because you're gonna upset the collimation or alignment of the mirrors, which is, it happened once. Took me 15 minutes to get the thing back into alignment with my laser collimator. Now that is a laser. But at any rate, it happened in one of the South Worcester County libraries. The director called me, John, she said, we'll have you come down. Patron brought it back in, we looked through it, it's all blurry, can't see a thing. But what she didn't tell me until I got down there was that the family, the father or husband of the family group, seemed to know quite a bit about astronomy and or telescopes. And admitted the fact that he did not think it was a crisp image when he looked through the eyepiece. So he tried to adjust it. Unless you've got a laser collimator, it's not gonna happen, and he didn't. At any rate, that's what the red dot looks like. You look through that little peep sight, and the whole idea is you put that red dot, by moving the telescope around, up, down, sideways, you put the red dot, or place the red dot on what it is you want to look at up in the night sky. Then when you look through the eyepiece, hopefully it should be there.
And the red dot won't show?
Absolutely not. I'll show you afterwards. I can put my hand in front of that, you won't see it. Because halfway down that tube, I gotta back up. Halfway down this tube here, right about there, is a clear plastic insert. And that dot gets projected onto it. Of course, you can see by it and up into the sky or whatever it is you want to look at. So it works quite nicely. Packing it in the transportation tote, which is underneath the table on that end. This is how you get it, meaning the telescope, from the library here to your home, back and forth safely and securely. Now, there's one thing critical in remembering, that you want to have the eyepiece and the Easy Finder pointing up, not to one side or the other, or having it to be down, because you will knock that Easy Finder out of alignment. So no pressure, just make sure the eyepiece and the Easy Finder is up.
I'm confused. Is this gonna stay here, or are people gonna be taking it out of here to their homes?
People take it out. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that.
Oh my God.
The whole idea about this program is that once the telescope is in a library, anyone in that library's card-carrying patron in good standing, 18 years of age or older, can come in and check it out, just like a book.
Oh my God.
And in this particular case, like Layla said initially, it's a week period you can have it. And if nobody's waiting, maybe you could extend, that's up to them.
Oh my God.
141, no problems so far. At any rate, putting it all together, in the waste pack, which is attached to the telescope, there are a couple of books. One of them is the National Audubon's Guide to Constellations Northern Hemisphere, and most importantly, the instruction manual. This goes out with the telescope so your patron, other patrons can refer to it. Also, and the kids love it, a red and white light headlight. We've done programs, scout groups, school groups. Each kid has one of these. They put them on their head and they turn them. It's dark now. It's light. It's, nighttime. And they're running around the yard of the field. They look like fireflies floating around all over the place. They love them. At any rate, binoculars. How many here own binoculars? What a heck of a nice way to begin to learn the night sky. Check things out. If you see something interesting, hey, point your library telescope at it. See what it is. And we'll cover a little later on, Jim will, about what some of the things are you can see up there. No adjustments really need to be done. We've already taken care of that, other than pointing it in the direction you want to look. And as far as repairs go, that's me. Fortunately, in over 4 years now, I can count on 2 hands the number of times that I've had to go to a library to either adjust something or fix something, and there's nothing been major. So it's what we do to modify them makes them again a little bit more durable and or user friendly. And it's number one, a strong telescope to begin with. I take my hat off to the gang up in New Hampshire who picked that particular telescope out of all of them that were potentially available back, say, even 10 years ago when they ramped up their program. And believe me, what we're dealing with here in the Northeast is only the tip of the iceberg. 3.5 years ago, Jim and I were approached about participating in a grant application to the IMLS, the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Oh yeah, why not? Paperwork went in mid-January. We found out early March of 2015 we got the grant, $500,000. The intent was to put 1,000 telescopes in libraries nationwide. And about 3 months ago, I checked with one of my people up at Cornerstone in Brunswick, Maine. I said, how's the program going? She said, well, we're in 28 states now. So it's going well. At any rate, what to do? Read the instruction manual. Oh, by the way, because this is a reflector telescope, if you look at a stop sign, it's the image on the left. Looking through the telescope, it's the image on the right you're going to see. That's the way reflector telescopes work. They flip the image and reverse it. But if you're looking at the moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, you don't care which is north and south or east and west. As long as you can find it, that's the main thing. Okay? And handle it with care. I mean, this is a precision piece of optical equipment. I mean, you wouldn't take a good camera or your laptop and throw it on the floor in the back seat of the car. That's what the transportation tilt's for. You handle it gently. Okay, and never look at the sun. We've got a sticker we put right on the side of the optical tube assembly, so when you bend down to look for the eyepiece, it's looking you right in the face. There's enough heat generated that it could soften the adhesive holding the secondary mirror onto its gimbal mount. And to look through it, because of the magnification involved, you are looking at instant, irreversible damage. You have burned a hole in your retina. And the scary part about it, you may not know even until the next morning or the morning after. When you wake up and start, what the heck? Yeah. Eclipses. Looking at the sun naked eye. 30 seconds, you have done damage to your eyes. Don't do it. Now mark your calendar. We had one last August 21st. We've got another one coming. April 8th, 2024. Now think about it. April 8th, the chances of us here in New England having clear skies to be able to see the sun are pretty slim. So, the path of that one, by the way, is going to run from Texas and an arc up through New England, so it's going to be a little closer than the one last August. Jim will cover that in a minute too. Don't touch any optical surfaces with your fingers. Now, the only one you can be close to is the eyepiece. If it looks dusty, don't worry about it. The staff at the library have been instructed on how to clean it. But resist the urge to take your finger and wipe it off. You've got oils in your fingers, which will, after a while, erode the coating on that optical glass. So don't worry about it. It's going to be caked in mud before you can't see anything. A few flecks of dust, not a problem, believe me. And again, finding a dark sky site, that's imperative. The darker sky site you can find, the more things you're going to be able to see. And that's the beauty of this. You don't have to stay in your backyard. Go to a dark field someplace, could be a park or farmer's field. Don't get permission ahead of time. And set it up on a table. You're good to go. All right. Oh, here's where I can turn it over to Jim and let him tell you about good things like magnification and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Thank you, John. One of the most misunderstood aspects of telescope ownership is magnification, okay? When I do a stargazing event, they go, oh, Mr. Espresso, what have you brought tonight? They said, how powerful is that telescope here? They said, 6-inch, 150 millimeter. Point to the library telescope, 114 millimeter, or 4.5 inch. What about the X factor? You know the X factor? Magnification. Everyone thinks magnification is the most important aspect. It is by no means the most important. The most essential is light gathering capacity, aperture. How much of a lens and how much of a mirror have you got to gather enough light to do the work you need to do to view objects in the night sky? So when you see those sales around the holidays, specifically Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, oh man, we got this deal for you, man, you can't avoid this. $199 plus 599X. Man, sign me up for that. Whoa, 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 whoa. We're going to give you a little smarts here based on the library telescope. We're going to tell you that those apertures are about 2 inches in diameter. Did I mention the word cheap plastic? Yes, it's a cheap plastic lens. And then they have 3 eyepieces that allow you to go through a range of magnification meant to maximize magnification. Did I say they were also made out of cheap plastic? And then they have something I don't even own, which is a triplet. It's called a Barlow lens. It triples whatever you got there. So in fact, they're not lying. They're telling you the truth. 599X. We have a lot of owners who buy these telescopes, bring them up to Aldrich and say, I can't see anything through it. Can you help me? I go, thank God, because I can't see anything through it either. Basically, you have good eyesight. Congratulations. The problem is, they're not telling you with a 2-inch lens of mediocre quality, 40X. And you're pushing it. Really seriously pushing it. This has been optimized. This is a mirror. It's nicely coated, highly reflective, very portable. You're going to get the maximum you can get out of that, and you'll get a lot more light gathering capacity than you will out of these $199 specials, and less frustrating too. So that's what the important part is. Aperture, which gathers the light, and a good steady mount and good seeing conditions help too. There's a lot that goes into this. So aperture is the most important aspect. And like I said, you want to exercise your pooch, especially during the summertime. You get nice and dressed up, go out there, get a comfortable chair, get your telescope all set up, or a table for your library telescope. Make sure he's got a dog biscuit so he doesn't bug you. And then you start getting your eyes dark adapted. What does that mean? You go out in a brightly lit house, you go into a dark area, it's going to take you 15 to 20 minutes as an adult for you to adjust. And by the way, are there any Scout educators or Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts in the audience? Because Scout leaders always ask me, how is it every single one of my Scouts go, first star! And 15 to 20 minutes later, I finally see it. I said, well, that's because they have 8mm pupils. Their eyes are a little bit more flexible, so their pupils expand to 8mm. Adults typically 4mm or less, so they got twice the sauces you've got to gather light. So they're always going to win that. It obeys the laws of the universe, frustrates Scout leaders and teachers, but that's the way it is. So that's important too. And then you got to deal with the atmosphere. If there's any kind of instability in the atmosphere, a lot of dew, I have a way of telling, how can you tell if it's a good night or a bad night? I go out and touch the side of the telescope. If I can write my name on the side of the telescope, it's a very moist, highly humid day, and you're probably not going to be having a good day to view it, because everything will dew over. If it's nice and dry and squeaky, hey, you're up for good viewing conditions. And this is what we hope to see through the library telescope. And then you'll see the belts of Jupiter, which are upper atmospheric phenomena, and you can see 4 Galilean moons in the dance of the moons going around Jupiter back and forth. And then, like I said, we try to give you a telescope for the library telescope program that's stress-free. So I don't want you to memorize things. I don't want you to, go into a crisis crunch of confidence, basically. We're telling you what the magnification is. Don't worry about it, basically. Just go out there, point at an object, and explore space. And like I said, here's the important part. The object that we have to deal with are pupils. And the other thing, I really got to honestly give you a heads up. And this goes winter and summer. And I go back and forth, which is worse, because if this is in the backseat of a car and you're going all over the place and it finally gets dark and you take it out, boy, this library telescope's broken. It's not working the way Mr. Zabrowski said. Well, if I got put in the backseat of the car and it was 120 degrees while I'm eating a Burger King and I come out and grab myself and put it into a 70-degree parking lot, I'm probably not going to feel too comfortable for at least an hour. So you got to watch that. So acclimation includes both ways. If you go out from a nice warm place in the winter outside, you're going from 75 on your couch to outside, 10 degrees, 0 degrees. It's going to take an adjustment period. So you got to get the lens, the optics acclimated. And then, of course, telescope etiquette, if you ever go to a stargazing event, and there's a lot in the area. There's the Springfield Stars in the area, Amherst, 5As for Amherst, basically have all kind of stargazing events. Always ask for directions on what people, because some people sometimes have tracking mounts. This is a point and shoot mount, very easy. You look at an object, you point at it, and you're observing. A lot of people have driven telescopes. They'll keep on an object. You don't have to keep moving it to keep up with the object as the Earth rotates. And I'll tell you, take a look at this. Is it any wonder there's a massive amount of confusion, even amongst experts? Basically, look at the variety of telescopes. And I'll tell you, every one of these telescopes you see up there are top-notch telescopes. But are they top-notch for you, me, Sean, or you? I don't know. It all depends on our observing capabilities. I had one gentleman who listened very carefully to my talk. Oh, aperture, aperture. He went out and bought a 20-inch telescope. Didn't consult me. Did he listen? Yeah. Did he ask me how much a 20-inch telescope weighs? 250 pounds. He observed with it 3 times and promptly got rid of it. So my attitude is buy a telescope if you're going to buy a telescope that you use, or better yet, library card, take one out and get the experience of a lifetime. It really is amazing what you can see with that simple telescope. So this is the power of the telescope. And I'm going to convince you this is very accurate here. So everyone's very familiar with the Big Dipper, which is an asterism, part of a constellation called Ursa Major or the Big Bear. And people can usually locate it. I've had a couple students doing backyard astronomy for my college course. They couldn't even find the Big Dipper. So they were pretty excited within 3 months of being able to find the Big Dipper. But this is the outline of the Big Dipper. And if you notice something strange about the second star in the handle, which is this one, and if you look at it a little closer, notice that? It is a double star. It's called Alcor, being the smaller one, and Mizar, the larger one. And it's easily split by the unaided eye. Okay, so you're using your child that's an 8-millimeter pupil or a 4-millimeter pupil to gather enough light to separate or resolve closely spaced objects like this double star, Alcor and Mizar. Native Americans call it the squaw and papoose. The Arabs call it the horse and rider, so it's known historically. Here is the real power of the telescope that you're going to pick out. And everyone always tells me, Mr. Zebrowski, that is amazing. Alcor and Mizar are so much better through the telescope. And I go, excuse me? Mizar? Alcor. Uh-oh, what happened? Well, imagine if you had a 4.5-inch diameter pupil. This is what you would be seeing. You're now really separating, and what you're seeing is Mizar is a double star itself. You couldn't see that with your 8-millimeter or 4-millimeter pupil. But with a 4.5-inch telescope, you can clearly see it. So Mizar A and Mizar B are doubles. So now we got a 3-star system. Wow, this is more than I bargained for. Take it home with the library card. I got 3 stars in my first viewing session. Well, here's the secret. If you can convince the librarian, basically the library director, to allow us to take out the Hubble, 94.5 inches. I know it's a little tough in the backseat of the car, but I go for it. What the heck? You know, 94.5 inches, the resolution of that telescope shows Mizar A is a double, Mizar B is a double, and guess what? Alcor is a double. So in fact, you are looking at a double, double, double star. Quite amazing. Marvelous. And if you go back to the asterism of the Big Dipper, which is very prominent high overhead in the sky now, you'll see the Big Dipper, the asterism, and you use the pneumatic arc of the handle to the bright star Arcturus, and then drive the spike to the horizon to spike up. All of a sudden, you're using what is called star hopping, where you're going from Ursa Major to Arcturus, finding the constellation of Boötes, and then going to Spica, the brightest star in Virgo. So without using a map or anything, it's like saying, oh, how do I get to the police station? Well, the police station is behind the library. A parking lot for the library is to the right. In front of it is the nice park, which is the entrance to the library. You're giving a description relative to the library. This is what we're telling you to do. Star hopping says identifying known objects like the Big Dipper asterism or the Orion constellation in the wintertime and use those to kind of start hop off to other areas around it. And all of a sudden you learn 2, 3, 4, 5 constellations just by knowing where that one object is. And that's what we highly recommend. Now, if you do go to Arcturus, which is really kind of an interesting star in something called the Boötes, and you move this way, I kind of like this, you have a smiley face or a crown called Corona. That's the constellation of Corona, Gemma Coronae, and basically this allows you to use that star to point toward a off-sided rectangle grouping the stars, kind of dim. It's Hercules, and they call it the keystone because it looks like a keystone for an arch. So you look on one leg of the keystone and guess what you see? Whoa! This is, I always tell people when I show them this is worth the price of admission. Of course, all the events we have are free. So I said, it's worth twice the price of admission. But it is. Your eye is just drawn into this, and this is an astrophotograph taken by Kevin Boucher, one of our members, and it's on display at Bridgewater. But this is marvelous because your eye also is drawn in there, and it's 500,000 stars you're looking at. It's a globular cluster. There's 2 types of clusters. Open clusters, the type of cluster that our sun was born in, and the globular clusters, which are in the galactic halo. So these are far away. This is maybe 27,000 light years from here. So your eye is drawn to these 500,000 stars, and they keep going in and out of focus. So it's almost like a sparkling diamond jewel or pendant you're trying to get a handle on. It's wonderful to be able to see that. This is a good picture or representation of what you can see through the telescope. Now, let's go back to the Earth-Moon system. One of the closest objects in space is our moon. And we have, thanks to the moon, basically, Theta, an object that was a little bit the same size or a little less the dimensions of Mars, about 4.5 billion years ago, do a glancing blow to our newfound planet, which, by the way, is a second-generation planet. So it formed the moon, and it also tipped the Earth over on its axis, 23.5 degrees. Hey, summer solstice, here we come, right? That axis gives us a moderate temperate climate, all thanks to the moon. And the fact that the moon is almost the size of Earth, after coalescing into this object, it's 2,100 miles across and it's very nearby. It allows stability in the seasons and the way the Earth presents itself in its orbital plane around the sun. Really kind of nice. So here it is. We have the Tropic of Cancer, and June 21st, everyone can celebrate the solstice, which is the furthest the sun at our latitude can get in the sky, and then it will start moving slowly southward toward the celestial equator. And that's summertime, well, at least summertime for us. Yeah, you talk to your friends in Australia, New Zealand, and Brazil, they're going to say, oh, man, it's cold here. It's chilly, it's 60 degrees here. Oh, poor dudes. So depending on where you are on Earth, so we have sacrifices because of this tilt. But it allows really nice direct rays of the sun to warm us up in the summertime, and we have moderate winters. I know, contrary to what we just went through, but they're kind of moderate. And then, of course, getting back to the furthest in space human beings have ever traveled, we used the giant Saturn V rocket, which was approximately 363 feet tall, taking 3 astronauts approximately 240,000 miles from Earth to land on the moon back in 1969 for the first time. This was loaded. It had 6 million gallons of fuel, 7.5 million pounds. In fact, they said when the engines ignited, it took 9.5 seconds to get up to full thrust before the rocket could even lift off. You know, and then it just hung there and it just slowly moved in space. So it was really quite an amazing feat of technology. We lost someone. He's the only Apollo astronaut I was privileged to meet. He was a wonderful human being. Alan Bean. He was on a 4th person to walk on the moon. He's also an artist, and he did a lot of drawings and paintings on the moon, incorporated with instruments he brought back from his travels to the moon. And also, every one of his paintings is known to have moon dust in it. How did he get moon dust? They gave him a suit. They gave him his patch. They gave him some gloves and geological instruments, and they gave him the bottom part of his boot covers. And then he was looking at it one day, man, I gotta clean this up. This is pretty dirty. Until he looked at it, he goes, NASA doesn't know. So all of a sudden he started sprinkling all this moon dust all over his paintings, and his paintings are very famous for that. And so this is Alan Bean. Look at him, he did a really marvelous job with that. And here they are, basically, the three intrepid heroes, basically. You always have three people. One person has the keys to get home in the command module, and the two land on the surface of the moon and do exploring. And he was instrumental in getting them there because as they took off, within 25 seconds of liftoff, they got hit by lightning and everything went dead. And then they got hit by lightning a second time. The lightning had arced right through the plume of ionized material that the fire and flame. It was a 700-foot flame coming out of the bottom bells of the Saturn V rocket. And it just killed everything on the Saturn V. And they were telling him, oh, well, reboot the computer. And Alan Bean goes, listen, I don't know about you guys, but never reboot a good computer that seems to be working when you're flying with 6 billion pounds of fuel on board, you know? So let's get into low Earth orbit. So he convinced all his colleagues and he convinced the NASA mission control, let's get into low Earth orbit. And it ended up being the right call. He was cool as a cucumber. And then he fired up the engines and rebooted in orbit, and then he fired the engines and took off to the moon. So he kind of saved the mission because of that. He even, hindsight, even as two other colleagues look back and go, man, good call, you know? So these guys are amazing. And of course, now we have the International Space Station, which is 300 feet long, 240 feet wide. We have a lot of spacewalks going on. Here's an example, one of the spacewalks where they go out with their special precision tools. And unlike the first spacewalk where they had the first tool and they put it on a nut or bolt on a satellite and they pressed the button and the astronaut turned around and around and around, something called Newton's laws. For every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. Now they have tools that take away that spinning motion and allow it to be isolated from the astronaut's hands. Very important if you're in a microgravity environment, unless you like going for a spin. Okay, and then of course we have the Falcon rocket, which has been launching the SpaceX cargo vehicles into space, but it also launched tests just recently, the Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite, and this is just getting into an orbit right now where it's analyzing distant stars that may have planets that transit across them, and it's going to analyze about 85% of the sky. So we're going to get to learn more and more about nearby planets and nearby solar systems that are close to our own star, say within 2,000 light years. And here's the rocket that I like to talk about, the Atlas V, which is a kick-in-a-butt type of rocket blast. And InSight launched on May 5th, and this is it, all lit up in the dark. Took off very successfully. I was cheering it on, and this is what it looked like after taking off. It's always exciting seeing that. And you gotta understand, there's people who are involved in some of these explorations for maybe 10, 15 years in some of these programs. And man, talk about a nervous wreck. You load it on top of a rocket with about 5 million pounds of fuel. It's like, things can go wrong. But fortunately, there's a lot of quality built into it. So InSight is designed to be a lander, and it's going to send a temperature probe measuring the inside core temperature of Mars, and it also has a Mars seismometer looking for Mars quakes to see if Mars is geologically active. So that's what it's going to look like. And it has about a 2-year life expectancy on the surface of Mars. And of course, I'm on board. So a lot of people sign up for this. And you get to sign up and you get on a chip, which is on the side of the lander. So I'm all over the solar system. I spread myself all over the solar system. And this is kind of cool if you're a kid, or if you're like me, and a kid that never wants to grow up, right? I get signed up for all these things. So June Starry Skies, this is what you can see on the night sky. The first thing I always advise people, go see spaceweather.com. Check out the Library Telescope, check out spaceweather.com. This goes back about a week. This is the sun taken by Solar Dynamics Observatory. There's only one sunspot, and I think it's around here now. Not much of a threat. It's solar minimal, and not much is happening. But occasionally you have coronal holes in the sun, and this allows the electromagnetic field to almost go to zero there, allowing the solar wind to stream out, head to the Earth if the Earth's in the path of that solar wind, and you have an interaction between the solar wind energetic particles hitting the electromagnetic field of the Earth, and then what do you have? Beautiful aurora borealis. Not as common now as it was in March and April, and the beginning part of May, and it will be again September, October. And I like this one. And you take a look at this one, and you see the beautiful church here. I don't know if it's a church or a meeting hall. And this is up in Canada. Alan Dyer takes these beautiful pictures of Canada. But I also like what he did after this. Does everyone understand what causes that? I mean, flat earthers, you'll have to leave the room. There you are. That's the Earth's axis of rotation is pointed toward Polaris. And the only thing that can cause this is a rotating globe, basically. And you allow all these star trails to trail over a period of time. It really is amazing. But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous picture to see it in itself. And one of my favorite things about Jupiter this year is I get to say it's in Libra, but I also get to say it's near the star Zubin al-Janubi. I like that name. It's good Arabic name. A lot of fun to say. And it's a great double star, by the way. So that's where Jupiter is located here, and it's going to be eventually moving into Scorpius. So it's going to be low in the horizon. This is Charlie Stevenson, one of our club members. He took a picture of Jupiter. You can clearly see the red spot, and there's a heads up. Unfortunately, the red spot is not visible today. It will be visible tomorrow. And it's very prominent because Jupiter is so close to the Earth. I mean, what can I say? Van Gogh, buckle your seatbelts. This is Juno orbiting around the poles of Jupiter, and it just sent back these dynamic images. And NASA doesn't even do anything with the images. They have citizen scientists. They get on there, download it, put it together, and put it up on the website. And NASA goes, oh, wow, that's a great picture. They're all looking for the data, analytical data and informational data. How hot is the red spot, which is 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's pretty hot on Jupiter because of the turbulent winds. But this is all winds and cyclonic action on the atmosphere of Jupiter. Really kind of amazing. And of course, if you faced the west right at sunset, which we hope to do, you're going to see the bright planet Venus. And then later in the month, you'll also see a little bit of Mercury. If we can see Mercury, I'm going to jump up now and do my little excited dance because it's so close to the horizon. It's a very rare chance of seeing it. But Venus, on the other hand, is very easy to see. Everyone knows. It looks like the oncoming lights of a landing airplane. And that's all the way through the end of June. And by the way, welcome to my favorite year because I can show one planet, no planets, or minimal planets, like Neptune and Uranus, which are like spots. I get to show you Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars, okay? And Mars is the closest it's been to Earth in 60,000 years, so it's really going to be close and show off for an amazing amount of detail. Unfortunately, Mars throws us a curveball, as usual. Nothing's easy about going to Mars. There's a giant dust storm that is occurring on Mars. Opportunities down, Curiosity is getting hammered. And so this was taken at Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. He does a really good job of putting these images together, but he's got nice dry skies up there. And of course, these are the 4 Galilean moons. The Pizza Moon, Io, almost 300 erupting volcanoes. Europa may have subsurface oceans as deep as 68 miles deep. We have Ganymede, which also may have subsurface oceans. And then we have Callisto, one of the outer moons. And you can see these moons moving in and out around the plane of Jupiter. It's really quite amazing looking at that. Sometimes you see the shadow projected on the atmosphere, upper atmosphere of Jupiter. This one I love. Look at this. This is an amazing amateur image. And this was taken by this guy. Talk about a small portable telescope. Not really. That's massive. But he did a pretty good job in getting that image in. And this is Curiosity. Like I was describing earlier, Curiosity looks like this. It's about maybe 5 or 6 feet long, and this mast here, which you see there, is about 1 foot over the top of my head for perspective. So it's about 7 feet tall, 6-wheel drive, and it's climbing Mount Sharp in Gale Crater. So it's climbing a 15,000-foot mountain peak. It has discovered carbon, sulfur, methane, all kind of organics, which means something amazing is going on the surface of Mars. Now, currently or in the past, we don't know. But stay tuned, we're gonna have landers going there in the near future, and basically taking a look at some of these. And in 2020 rover, which is similar to what Curiosity is gonna land in an area, package up a sample, and right nearby, maybe 4 years later, they're gonna land a rocket, pick up the sample that that rover dug, and bring it back to Earth. So we'll get our first samples from Mars. And then, of course, just to give you an example, here's 2018 Mars as we get close compared to 2020. So there's differences. And plus, there's certain times of the year as Mars pulls away. So you notice there's a lot of launches. Like I just told you, InSight launched to Mars. That's when we're close. Because now Mars is pulling away, and maybe by the end of the year, Mars is going to be 140 million miles from Earth. So you don't have enough fuel on any current rocket technology to make that gap. But when we're 34.5 million miles apart, can make the hop pretty quickly. Just as long as you do the math. If you're Mars and I aim for you, guess what I'm going to hit? Probably the asteroid belt, because you're going to be over there by the time I reach Mars. So you got to aim where you're going to be in about 8.5 months. And there's a lot of math and science that goes into that. I love this. Mars in the night sky, like I said, we got Saturn and Sagittarius, the Archer, and then we got Mars, which is moving on Libra into Scorpius. And by the way, if anytime you see this green line, do an imaginary trick in your head, basically. Look at Venus on the western horizon. Overhead, you're going to see Jupiter, and down next to the horizon, you'll see Saturn. Draw, and somewhere in between, the moon always appears. Draw an imaginary line right through all of them. That is called the ecliptic or plane of the solar system. All the planets in the solar system are a little above or a little below that plane. So that's why I can't find planets to save my life. Hey, can you find the moon? Most people say, yeah, I can find the moon. Okay, left of the moon, right of the moon, east of the moon, west of the moon. Guess what? Right object, point that library telescope at it. It's a planet. Figure out which one. You know, that's part of the mystery. So you're always going to find that green line is called the ecliptic. And of course, Sally Ride Forever stamp. I tried to pick one up to show her one year life stamp, but I was unable to get one today, but I got one on order. And that was issued on May 23rd. And she's only the second astronaut so honored by the U.S. Postal Service. The only other one was Shepard, Alan Shepard. And first, she's an astrophysicist who got launched into space on 2 missions. Both of the missions were amazing. They were Challenger missions. She was on the Challenger Commission after the Challenger exploded, investigating what happened. And she spent most of her life as an educator, and this is one of her pictures in orbit. I attended one of her workshops at Framingham College or University. We were there with a whole bunch of teachers there, and she was doing a teleconference with us. And she's quite amazing. She publishes a lot of books, basically, for STEM activities, getting young women and young boys basically involved in wanting to be into space, or wanting to know math, or wanting to know the science of how we can explore our solar system. So I think that's kind of cool. So Mars is closest to Earth on July 27th, about 34.8 million miles. Bad news is I'm kind of looking forward to this and this dust storm. Bummer. And this is supposed to be active. Let's see if it actively do something. No, it won't do anything. Anyway, the slide is a picture of 3 images, and the dust is virtually covering everything on the surface of Mars, putting an Opportunity at rest. So Opportunity is hunkered down and shut down because it requires solar panels. Curiosity does not require solar energy. It has nuclear RTGs. So look how bad it is. This is the Viking landings, basically. This here is Mars, when you can see it the best from orbit, and look at that. So this is what we're dealing with. You can't even see where you're going. And what does this mean if you're a solar-powered rover that's been on Mars for 14.5 years and you don't want to lose it? By the way, the dust storms on Mars are, if I told you 60 mile per hour winds, you go, oh, but boy, they're going to blow the rover and take it over. Well, you got to understand the Martian atmosphere is the equivalent of the atmosphere of Earth at 100,000 feet. So the field walking on Mars, contrary to what you saw with Mark Watley, you know, got trapped in Mars because of the Mars sandstorm, that never happened. That can't happen. Because the equivalent and the atmospheric pressure is only about 6.5 mile per hour wind here on Earth. Now, that being said, there's a lot of dust, it's electrostatic, it's nasty, it clogs all the seals and stuff like this. And you can see, if you want your solar panels to fully charge the electronics here and not freeze to death, you can see how bad it was. And then I show you, this is kind of cool because the dust take it and the dust devils bring it back. So dust devils, they were wondering why all of a sudden the current and opportunity went through the sky, and you noticed after it was cleaned up and they had pictures downloaded of dust devils coming right toward it and right over it. And opportunity is the equivalent of a golf cart here on Earth, but on Mars, with the atmospheric pressure and the mass of Mars, it's the equivalent of a Mack truck. You're not going to tip it over. So the whirlwind, dust devils went over it, cleaned the panels right off. So it was back in action again. So yes, the storms can dump all over the solar panels, but they can remove it very nicely. And this is from orbit. And these are really kind of high. 12 miles on it, really quite amazing. And by the way, spaceweather.com, check it out for the Library Telescope, and then check out this place. What's up for June, what's up for July, what's up for August. Heads up warning for teachers and educators. Don't be like me, go on and say, what's up in June? I'll get every rap artist known to mankind will come up before NASA. So you have a NASA, what's up in June 2018. You do what's up, you get rap music. Okay, so just heads up warning. And the kids might love it, but I'm looking for something specific. So you download this June, July, August, and I'll send that to the library director here so you'll be able to share it online with your patrons. Take a look. 2.5 minutes and you're going to be so much smarter.
What's up for June? Jupiter and Venus at sunset, Mars, Saturn, and Vesta until dawn. Hello and welcome. I'm Jane Houston Jones from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. I hope this month's evening weather will lure you outside for night sky viewing. First up is Venus. It reaches its highest sunset altitude for the year this month and sets more than 2 hours after sunset. You can't miss Jupiter only a month after its opposition, when Earth was directly between Jupiter and the Sun. The best time to observe Jupiter through a telescope is 10:30 p.m. at the beginning of the month and as soon as it's dark by the end of the month. Just aim your binoculars at the bright planet for a view including the 4 Galilean moons, or just enjoy Jupiter with your unaided eye. Saturn is in opposition June 27th, when it and the Sun are on opposite sides of Earth. It rises at sunset and sets at sunrise. Great Saturn viewing will last several more months. The best views this month will be just after midnight. All year, the rings have been tilted wide open, almost 26 degrees wide this month, giving us a great view of Saturn's distinctive rings. The tilt offers us a view of the North Polar region, so exquisitely imaged by the Cassini spacecraft. Near Saturn, the brightest asteroid, Vesta, is so bright that it can be seen with your unaided eye. It will be visible for several months. A detailed star chart will help you pick out the asteroid from the stars. The summer Milky Way provides a glittery backdrop. Finally, Mars grows dramatically in brightness and size this month and is visible by 10:30 p.m. by month end. The best views are in the early morning hours. Earth's closest approach with Mars is only a month away. It's the closest Mars has been to us since 2003. You can catch up on solar system missions and all of NASA's missions at www.nasa.gov. That's all for this month. I'm Jane Houston Jones.
Very short, very to the point. 2.5 minutes, and you're so much smarter about what you're going to see in the night sky. And of course, we have our Bridgewater display, and like I said, we go all across the state at various libraries and want the gallery display of astrophotographs. And this is Ken Cleveland's image of the Milky Way over the Lakeland Sigmund Bridge in Worcester, Mass. Beautiful image, kind of gets you to it. And you got to understand, a lot of these astrophotographers, we have astrophotography workshops where people who want to know how do you take pictures of objects in the night sky attend these workshops, and They learn, they're attending anywhere from 15 to 20 people attend these, and you get to learn a lot from our group. Well, the other part of this is a lot of people say, hey man, I want to do one of these pictures. So it takes a little bit of planning, and you got to get a number of images, you got to have a calm night, you got to take some time exposures, certain degree time exposures, and then you stack images together. But there's a lot of work. So you're out there, you're freezing your butt off, it's winter, it's cold, you have the camera, it's on automatic, it's doing its thing, right? You don't want anything to jiggle, let's see, way away from it, maybe a friend hanging out there, punching in your cell phone and talking to your friend, and all of a sudden, your friend jump to your feet and go, there's an earthquake, can feel the ground shaking. We better check out and see what's going on at Blue Hill. Maybe it's some kind of a seismometer, maybe one of those 4.3, 4.5 earthquakes in New England. Well, unfortunately, the farmer at the end of the field basically let his cows go at around 1 o'clock in the morning, and cows being cows say, what is that astrophotographer on the far end of the field doing? I think I'll stick my nose in his business. And he almost did. He almost pushed the key over, as you can see. So his friend was really upset, saying, man, he was really upset. He had to convince him, no, you got to upload this. This is amazing. And of course, you can see what happened. Cow photobombs the Milky Way. This got picked up by CBS Evening News. He got a lot of publicity for that. And he's a really talented photographer, along with being a landscape astrophotographer, as I would call it. And so you can check out his website in New England, buy the images and stuff like this. But I just get a kick out of this. And we've all had that experience where we want to get this optimal, perfect picture of Venus aligned with all Mercury and, and then what happens, the jet plane goes right through the wall. I mean, it happens. So you got to go with the flow. So I want to say thank you very much to being very patient with us. Now let's see if I can put my final image up there. And apparently, there he is. I got our dwarf star, the sun, to take a bow. Yeah, we have 750 billion suns in the Milky Way galaxy, but this star is the one we count on all the time. So hey, he wanted a little input, so I allowed him to take a bow. Not much convincing. Dwarf star, but our dwarf star is important and essential for all life here on our home world, planet Earth. So thank you very much to everyone who attended tonight, and we're open to any questions between John and myself. You could raise the lights a little bit and show off what we brought here. See, I got to introduce you to my partner here. I bring him along, and he's been scoffed by a number of kids who identify very much with Pluto. Well, Pluto, everyone's been telling me, Pluto, man, you got to really be a full-fledged planet. Well, actually, the mistake is in the astronomers passing that little misunderstood law, basically saying Pluto got demoted. Well, no, Pluto didn't get demoted. Pluto got promoted as being one of the largest objects of its kind in something called the Kuiper Belt. And all the other planets in our solar system align with this line called the ecliptic, which is the plane of the solar system. So that's why the sun is in that plane, the moon is a little above or a little below it, and all the planets are a little above and below it. A couple, 2-3 degrees above, 2-3 degrees below, right? Those are all the main planets of the solar system. Now, as you get to Pluto, which, by the way, is still a planet, we use the word dwarf star for our sun. It's still a star. We use the word dwarf planet for Pluto. It's still a planet. But it's in a different category of planet. What makes the difference? Plane of the solar system called the ecliptic, plus or minus a couple of degrees. Now, Pluto is nose-diving into this plane at 17.5 degrees. Eris, the second largest object in the Kuiper Belt, is nose-diving at 42.5 degrees. The only other objects that do that are comets, or icy objects. So Pluto is now the center point of getting us a better understanding of how solar systems form, how the Kuiper Belt came to be, and how important it was in the formation, or learning about how things formed in the solar system. Like I said, we have 8 planets in the solar system. Did we start out with 8 planets? No. We started out with 30 terrestrial planets. We ended up with 4. So there was like a demolition derby up front, including Theta, knocking the Earth on its corner and creating the moon. So there was a lot. In fact, they're convinced Earth now is a second generation planet. But there might have been as many as 100 planets in our solar system, many of which got ejected by this process of creation. So we're understanding that because of objects like Pluto. So as far as Pluto's concerned, bring it on! Man, I can handle it. Man, hey, thumbs out. They haven't stopped talking about me since I got promoted. But don't let anyone know. So Pluto's pretty happy with that deal. And that's what the ecliptic is all about. So all the other planets are plus or minus a couple degrees on the plane of the solar system. They cleared out all the debris, for the most part, in their orbital planes, meaning gravitationally they've attracted the mass and added to their own mass. And then they go around a star called the Sun, basically. Pluto, basically, it's, I didn't put that up here today, and I should probably go back to adding that. But I show Pluto, where it's going with the New Horizons spacecraft going by Pluto and on to its next object, which is it's going to bypass another Kuiper Belt object on January 1st of 2019. So I'm waiting for that. John and I are going to be celebrating the new year, cheering on the New Horizons mission, newest findings. But it's just amazing that the Kuiper Belt is now loaded with 750 Pluto-like objects. So I always talk to people, and I tell students this very carefully. Be careful what you wish for. Imagine this. 5 years from now, Pluto's a planet. Well, Pluto's a planet. The 750 other objects are planets. Pop quiz, put your books away, kids. Middle school students, name the 1,000 planets in the solar system. And your kids are probably going to go, oh, I got to zone out after 750. I'm a little fuzzy after that. So that's what it is. I don't care what you call it, dwarf planet, you come up with a different term, you've got to come up with a category that allows us to differentiate the planets in the inner solar system, the gas giants and rocky ice giants in the outer solar system, and then the Kuiper Belt objects. There's got to be some name for it. Call them Plutoids, call them Kuiper Belt objects. In fact, that's what they originally were called. But now we're calling them dwarf planets. And I realize that, and I understand that, because Clyde Tombaugh is the discoverer of Pluto, and he was an American astronomer, but even he said, man, this object is kind of weird. Just the way it's, going around the sun is just unusual. And that's the big difference, the way it approaches this plane of the solar system. Okay? Any other questions from anyone? Yeah, it's really amazing how much information we've got about our solar system and the world we live in, the universe we live in. It's just amazing the things we're doing now, basically learning about transiting exoplanets. I mean, I'm 69 years old, and I never envisioned doing predictions of the weather forecasting on a star 800 light years from Earth. What? Are you kidding me? They can't even forecast off New England. But they're forecasting the weather forecast for distant exoplanets. And when you have the next generation of infrared telescopes, which moves up from Spitzer to James T. Webb, which will happen in the 2020s, and it'll take 6 months to deploy, and it will basically fill the entire room with the dimensions the telescope mirrors. And it has to unfold itself and get itself oriented. You'll be looking into the atmosphere for signs of organic life forms, like methane, carbon dioxide, oxygen being generated. Man, all bets are off there. I'm waiting. I can't wait. And they had a news forecast with announcing the 750th but planetary bodies found in the Kuiper Belt. And one reporter said, "Hey, when are you guys going to get your act together and basically finish off how many planets are there in the solar system?" And the geologists and the planetary scientists in the room going, "I hope never. We're having the time of our life. Every time I get up, is there a new one?" And once a week, we're discovering 1 or 2 new objects in the Kuiper Belt. And that adds to the overall picture of how solar systems come to be, and gives us a more well-rounded picture. It's really amazing. It really is. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate that.